Hello guys, how's it going? So in this video, I'll show you how to replace the battery in an iPhone 6s Plus. So if you want to know when to replace the battery or if your battery needs replacing, you can refer to my last video, which I have linked in the description below, or you can click on the card on the top right. But in this video, we'll walk you through the step-by-step instruction from opening your phone all the way to closing it back up on how to replace your iPhone 6s Plus battery. So what you need: a new battery, the new battery adhesive, a new screen gasket, and then for the tools, a pentalobe screwdriver for the iPhone, a 000 Phillips screwdriver, a pair of tweezers, suction cup, and some tools to separate the display from the body. And also, it would be handy to have a hair dryer because the glue around the screen and also for the battery, they will be softer and easier to work with if we have heat. All right, without further ado, let's get started. So first step, we're going to remove the two pentalobe screws from the bottom of the iPhone 6s Plus. The next step, we're going to try to separate the display from the body. And for that, we need to apply a little bit of heat to the phone to soften up the glue in the gasket. The temperature you're aiming for is just barely cold enough for your hand to touch the phone. So you don't have to worry about heating it up too much. It won't damage the phone in any way. Let's get started. So now with the phone just barely cool enough for you to keep your hand on it, we're going to separate the display from the body. This step we have to do very slowly due to the glue around the gasket. So the easiest way to do it is to place a suction cup on the bottom left corner of the phone and then try to lift it up. As you'll see, there will be a smaller gap just around the headphone jack. This is the thinnest part of the display and the easiest part for us to get a tool in there to start separation. All right. Once we have a little bit of separation, we want to go around the left edge of the phone to loosen up the glue over here. After that, we'll go back to the lightning jack and then go towards the right. Once we have the bottom right corner loosened up, we'll remove the suction cup and put it back on around the right lower corner. And now we'll apply a little bit of pressure and then move along the right edge of the phone. If you do feel resistance when you're sliding this pry tool all the way up the phone, it might be because the phone has cooled down. So what you want to do then is to use the hairdryer again to heat up the phone. All right, so now we have the right edge, the bottom edge, as well as the left edge all loosened up. We will then slowly rise the display from the phone. Like so. Keep in mind, on this phone, all of the cables are on the top right corner, so just do not try to pull that away from the phone or you will damage all the cables. Now that we have the display open from the phone, we'll first disconnect the battery. To do that, we need to remove these two screws right here, as well as this metal bracket, using the 000 Phillips screwdriver. Keep in mind that these two screws are different length, and you want to put them back in the hole that they came from, so just keep that in mind. And now we'll remove this metal bracket. And this is the battery connector right here. So you want to pry that away perpendicularly from the circuit board. So just do that straight up, like so. And now the battery is disconnected. Next, we'll remove the display assembly from the case. This is because this gasket that runs around the perimeter of the phone, we need that replaced. And in order for us to put the new gasket on the phone, we'll have to disconnect the display. To do that, there are 5 screws holding down this bracket. So this is what we're going to be removing now. Again, these screws have different lengths, so please keep in mind where they came from and put them back exactly to that position. there is one screw, the one on the top right, is much longer than all the other screws. So if you get that one wrong, you run the risk of damaging the circuit board underneath the screw thread, and that will cause a lot of trouble. Oops. All right, so just remove this bracket now. So for this display assembly, there are actually 3 ribbon cables. We'll remove them one by one. Again, prying them straight up from the circuit board. First one. The one just below it. And then this one on the right. All right, so now with all 3 ribbon cables disconnected, we can safely remove the display from the housing. Now with the display removed from the phone, we're actually going to remove the battery. So the battery is held onto the phone through 3 pieces of pull-away glue tabs. And to remove those, first of all, we need to heat it up again to soften them. To do that, we're going to flip the phone over and then use the hairdryer again to apply heat to the battery area. So focus your heat on this area. Let's get started. Again, the temperature we're aiming for is barely cool enough for you to touch the phone. Okay, so now we have it up to temperature. We remove the 3 pull tabs. So on the bottom edge of the battery, you can see 3 little tabs. These are the tabs that we need to pull away from the phone. So first of all, we'll remove the tab from the battery. Once you're able to get hold of the tab with your fingernail, do this very slowly as we do not want to break the tab. If you do break the tab, it will make removing the battery super hard. Okay, so now we've gotten a hold of the tab. We'll just pull it away really slowly. And you will be able to feel that the tab is sliding away. All right, that's 1 tab removed. We have 2 left. All right, so I might have actually broken that tab, but let's do the middle one first. Okay then, so because the tabs all broke, we'll need to use another method to get this battery out of the phone. Alright, so because the tab in the middle and also the tab on the right broke off before all of it came out, we'll need to physically pry the battery away from the case. This will turn into an ugly step. What you need for this is just a piece of card to wedge underneath the battery. And the battery will deform, but try to do it as minimum as possible, because bending it too much might actually cause a fire. So just keep that in mind. So first thing, again, is to heat up the case. When you are prying the battery away from the case, always do it from the bottom left side, because you don't want to shove anything or apply any pressure to the circuit board on the left, and also on the right, and also on the top left there are the volume buttons and the mute rocker, so try to stay away from those as well. So what I'm going to do is to get in between the battery and the case and then lift up. You'll see that the battery will start to deform a little bit, but I try to bend the card as much as I can and then to go into the battery as much as I can. So with the battery lifted up a little bit, we can see where the tab broke off right there. And then what we want to do is try to grab the broken tab so we can start pulling that again. You really want to wonder why I just didn't do it in the first time, eh? Alright, that should be all of it, with just a tiny bit of residual. Not a big problem. And then the battery should mostly be lifting up now. We do have a little bit of remaining tab on the very top right, but that shouldn't be too big of an issue. Okay, we can see where the tab is, and we'll try to grab that again. All right, so now the battery is removed from the case. All right, so with the battery removed from the case, the next step we want to do is prep the phone for installation. So remember that gasket around the display? We'll want to remove this gasket and any residual glue to the best of our ability. This will make installation of the new gasket as well as sealing the phone back up much better, and we'll try to preserve the original state of the iPhone. Let's get started. We'll start from the display. So on the display, there is a little bit of glue, as we can see, around the top corner and as well as the bottom corner. So we'll just want to remove any tape and residual glue, like so. If you have isopropyl alcohol, the 99.9% type, you can also use that and a cotton swab to wash away any of the residue glue. All right, so the screen looks pretty good now. We'll move our attention onto the case. All right, so now with the gasket tape and the glue removed as much as possible, we'll now test the new battery before putting everything back together properly. So to do that, first we want to connect the display back to the PCB. Make sure the connectors are snapped in all the way, or there might be problems with the display or touch. So with those all connected, next we want to put the battery in its compartment and then connect the battery connector. Now we'll power up the phone to have a quick look. All right, so we can see this battery right now has 40% charge left, and touch and screen are all working. And so now we'll start beginning assembling this phone back together. So to do that, first we want to shut off the phone again. Wait for that process to finish, and then we'll disconnect the battery as well as the display. So the first thing we want to do is to put this battery back into its case with the new adhesive strips. So first we're going to apply the adhesive strips onto the battery. So you'll see that one side has a pink tape, the other side has a slightly faint blue tape. And then on the side with the blue tape, they're actually separated into two pieces, one on just the top part and one for the remaining part. The first step is to remove the little piece of blue tape from the top part. With this removed, we can now glue the very top of the pull tabs onto the bottom of the battery. This will help aligning where the tabs go, and then everything else will fall into place. So if you keep in mind of where the original tabs were on the old battery, it's basically covering right over this ridge. So what you want to do is align these tabs right on the ridges and then press down. So now with the 3 tabs attached onto the battery on this side, we'll want to remove the rest of the blue tape to uncover the rest of the glue. And then now what you want to do is hold on to the very tip of the pink tape, flip everything over, stretch just a little bit, and then press the tabs onto the back side of the battery. Press them down so that everything is glued on there tightly. All right, so now with the battery tabs attached onto the new battery, the next step is to remove the pink tape and then lower everything into the housing. And then now we can push it down. All right, so now the battery is fully installed onto the phone. Next, we will attach the ceiling's display gasket onto the phone. To do that, again, there are 2 sides on this. One side with a big tab, and then another side with just a small slight tab. And also keep in mind of the orientation of this gasket. This cutout right here is left for the camera module as it's just a little bit higher, and then we want to clear that. So now, first thing, remove the big side of the gasket tape. Next up, you want to align the bottom edge of the gasket into the display housing. Next, run your finger along the edge of the gasket to activate the glue. All right, so now with that all attached, we'll use the small tab to pull away this other side of the gasket. Okay, so that took me just a little bit to figure out how to get this backing to come off, but now everything is good to go. So what you want to do now is slowly remove this side of the blue adhesive tab away to reveal the glue side for the display. All right, we got it. All right, so with this gasket now on the phone, we want to reconnect the display. And for this, it's best to have a little piece of a block that you can hold the display up with. This will ease the application process a lot. So now we will put the display right up to where the groove goes, and then we'll reconnect the cables. Again, make sure everything is pressed down firmly so we don't run into display or touch errors. All right, so with all of those now in place, we want to reattach the bracket and the 5 screws. First comes the bracket. So the longest screw goes in the top right corner. Definitely make sure that goes back in that hole. When putting the screws back, what I like to do is to put every screw back into their hole a few threads first, and then when every single screw is in their position, I will then tighten all of them down. This will make sure you have an even pressure on the bracket, and also that all the screws can go back in their holes. All right, so now we have the display bracket installed. Next, we want to connect the battery back and reattach the final bracket. All right, so that's every screw and bracket within the phone installed. Now we'll want to lower the display and attach that back to the body. So for that, I will loosen my little block and then line up the grooves to the top edges of the phone and then start lowering it down. Push up to make sure the display goes all the way up to the housing. And when all of that is lined up, we can push the display into the case. And then try to press down everywhere around the edges so that the glue is activated and the gasket seals it up. All right, and the very last step of this tutorial is to return the two pentalobe screws back into their holes. Again, with these, I also like to put both of them in their holes before tightening them down all the way. And try not to over tighten these screws, they strip very easily. And that's it. So now we have a new battery in the phone and it's sealed up and everything, basically like how it came out of the factory. All right, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If it helped you, please give me a thumbs up. And yeah, if you are wondering if you need to replace the battery in your phone, please refer to my previous video. The link is in the description. And thank you very much for watching. I hope this will help you. I'll see you next time. Cheers.